conducive for our spiritual growth. So let's begin with text 5. So text 5 is Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranatibhishcha bhajantamisham shushrushaya bhajana vigyamananya manya nindadi shunya rudamipsita sangalabdhya. So here, so what does the verse say? Krishneti yasya giritam. Giri is the throat. So those whose throats are chanting the names of Krishna, for those people, manasa adriyeta. Manasa means with the mind, adar. Adar is respect. Adriyeta means to offer respect. So those who, everyone who is even chanting the names of Krishna, we need to be respectful toward them by offering respects in the mind at least. Then dikshasti chet pranatibhishcha bhajantamisham. So dikshasti, if somebody is a serious sadhaka, they have taken initiation and then they are worshipping the Lord. Bhajantam isham, isham is the Lord. Then pranatibhish, then we should actually offer obeisances to them. We should bow down to them physically also. And then shushrushaya bhajana vigyamananya manya ninda. So then it talks about third level of devotees, and for them shushrushaya, we should learn to hear from them regularly, and bhajana vigyam, we should learn how to practice bhajan because they know this very well. And what are the characteristics of the third or the highest level of devotees? Ananya, they practice devotion to Krishna which is completely free from any misdirection, any misconception, any misgivings. It's undiluted, undistracted. And here there's a beautiful rhyme of words, ananyam and anya. But this anya applies to anya ninda. So ninda is criticism. Those who shunya rudam, those who, in whose hearts there is no desire to criticize anyone. Their hearts are free from a critical or a fault-finding mentality. Ipsita sangha labdhya. So we should cherish their association. Sangha is association, labdhya. If we get it, we cherish it. Ipsita, we should hanker for it, and we get it, we cherish it. So basically it's talking about three levels of devotees. Those who are chanting the names of Krishna, those who are committed to the practice of bhakti, and those who are realized Krishna. So let's look at these three devotees, three levels, and see how we can interact with them. So the broad theme that we'll be discussing is that at one level, respect is to be given to everyone. Devotees see every living being as a part of Krishna. So a devotee won't unnecessarily even step on an ant, because not just we respect life, but we respect that ant's soul as a part of Krishna. That ant is also part of Krishna. So at one level, respect is given universally to everyone. At the same time, respect needs to be earned. And those who are spiritually advanced in a spiritual circle, they have earned respect. So at a basic human level, we respect everyone. But those who are spiritually evolved, we respect them even more. So that's the broad theme. So now, for respecting devotees according to their levels, Srila Prabhupada in his purport talks about three levels of devotees. And there are Sanskrit words used for these: Kaniştha, Madhyama, and Uttama. So in the broad dharmic traditions, the concept of adhikar and adhikari is very central. So in today's world, often the word adhikar, if you see it in Hindi or any other vernacular languages, it often refers to the right or the qualification or the entitlement. So Kaniştha-adhikārī means that that person whose adhikar, whose consciousness is evolved, not very much. So Kaniştha is, you could say, preliminary. So one whose level of consciousness is preliminary, and therefore they can see Krishna also at a very preliminary level. Madhyama is intermediate, and Uttama, Tama means darkness. Uttama means that which is beyond darkness. So these are the devotees who have transcended the darkness of material existence. And these are the topmost devotees. So these are 3 levels of devotees. And once we understand the level of devotee, we can respect them accordingly. So let's look at these 3 levels a little bit more in detail now. So Kaniştha-adhikārī, what happens with them primarily? They see devotees they see God only in the external sacred symbols. So for them, God is present only in the temple. So if they go to the temple, then they look at, oh, this is the image of God. This is where I'll close my eyes and worship. But then as soon as they come out of the temple, or even if they have some kind of temple room in their home, as soon as they come out of that, then immediately they are just caught in worldly consciousness thereafter. They don't have any higher consciousness. So Kanishta in English it translates as neophyte. So a fight, it can also be translated like the word fight, F-I-G-H-T. So neo is new. So Kanishtas, often they find new reasons to keep fighting. And so we could say this is the level where devotees are too caught in externals. And by devotee, we are using this word generically for any kind of religious followers. So when there are people who are very caught in externals, then any small difference between externals they see and they say, oh, you are wrong, you are wrong. So once there was a Christian man who was walking along a bridge in LA, and he saw there was a man standing on the bridge about to jump down into the river. Hey, don't commit suicide. Why? He says, why do you want to commit suicide? Because no one loves me. He says, no one cares for me. I'm all alone in this world. He says, no, you're not alone. Jesus loves you. Oh, really? How do you know that? He says, I'm a Christian. And this man who was about to commit suicide, he says, I'm also a Christian. Oh, wonderful. He says, then this man who was supposed to be a savior, he asked him, so are you a Catholic or are you a Protestant? He said, I'm a Protestant. Oh, very good. I'm also a Protestant. Okay. Then he asked him, okay, what denomination of Protestantism? He says, I'm a Methodist. Oh, really? I'm also a Methodist. Yes, okay. Then he asked him further, okay, which Methodist are you? He says, I'm a Southern Methodist. Oh, I'm a Southern Methodist also. Oh, really excellent. He says, which Southern Methodist are you? He said, I'm a Reformed Southern Methodist. And he said, I'm an Orthodox Southern Methodist. You are a pagan. Jump down and die. You don't deserve to live. So what happened is, it's so tragic. Just there's so many similarities, but one dissimilarity is made into a big thing. And you die. You don't deserve to live. So that person might be a Christian, that person might be a Protestant, that person might be a Baptist. But just because one is Reformed and the other is Orthodox, whatever, because you are a pagan and God doesn't love you, you die. So what happens is, people can get very caught in externalities. And nowadays, there is a school of thought that is coming up, which is called apatheism. Apatheism, or in America, they call themselves as nuns. Nuns means we don't belong to any religion at all. Not N-U-N, none, but N-O-N-E, none. So these people are fed up because they say that religion causes so much division in the world. Now, at one level, it is true, but it's not just religion that causes division. It's the other way. Humans have a divisive mentality, and then they use any reason that they can find for divisiveness. So, for example, if tomorrow we all woke up with absolutely all differences between us removed, if everybody belonged to the same nation, everybody belonged to the same race, everybody had the similar skin color, everybody had the same religion, even if everybody had the same gender, then we could say that all the things that cause conflict were disappeared tomorrow morning. But by tomorrow afternoon, we would have created some reasons for fighting with each other. So the reasons themselves don't cause the fight. The reasons are act like triggers for us to fight. So that is Kaniştha is basically neophyte. And at this level, people are too caught in externals. They can see God not in the hearts of people. They see God only in the external symbols. So now at the Kaniştha level, what happens? There is focus on beliefs or dogmas and rituals. And for example, conventional religiosity was basically pray, pay, and obey. You go to for example, a church, pray, and then give some donation. They had the tithing, so about 1/10 of your salary you give, and then obey. So that's all there is to religion at this level. And there's not much thinking, not much realization. You believe this, you do this, that's all. And this is not necessarily, I give examples of Christianity, but it's not typical of Christianity alone. Every religion can have people at the Kaniştha level. And not just can have, every religion has. And it's people at the Kaniştha level who often fight. Now this is what conventional religiosity has, these two characteristics. This is what you believe, and this is what you do. Beliefs and rituals. However, if we consider the Vedic understanding, it is not so much of this is what you believe and this is what you do. There are practices which we follow, but then by that we get experiences and realizations. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam. You'll get an experience of God. So it's not, so in a sense, what Krishna consciousness asks us is not so much for beliefs as for working assumptions that we can verify ourselves. So for example, when the Bhagavad Gita says you are not the body, you are the soul, then or you're not just the body, you're the soul, then when the Bhagavad Gita says that, it also gives us practices of yoga, and if we practice them diligently, we can experience non-material joy. We can experience non-material peace. You know, if we do the devotional practices, even if our body is in pain, even if the world around us is in turmoil, we can still experience some peace coming into our lives, some strength coming into our lives from some non-material source. And that can convince us actually that this spiritual level is real. So basically, there is a process given. So practices are more like processes, and the processes give us experiences and realizations. So in that sense, we experience God, we realize God. And that is why in the Vedic tradition, everybody will begin from the Kaniştha level. But the approach is you analyze things, then you realize, and then you relish, you cherish. So the arc of success, ARC, is analyze, realize, and cherish. So we'll look about this a little bit more now. Look at this. So what is the Madhyama-adhikārī? The Madhyama-adhikārī understands that, yes, God is present in the temple, but God is not present only in the temple. That my relationship with God doesn't just depend on how I go in front of the deities and fold my hands and offer prayers. My relationship with God also depends on how I relate with everything, with everyone. There are different kinds of people, and how I relate with people will also affect my relationship with God. Because God, everything is connected with God. And everyone is a part of God. So that expansion in one's understanding of God's presence, that characterizes a Madhyama-adhikārī. So one understands that how I relate with God depends on how I relate with people around me. And then for this Madhyama-adhikārī, it is said that there are 4 broad modalities. So if we consider the object and the relationship. So it is said that Ishvare tadadineshu balisheshu dvishetsu cha prema maitri krupo peksha yah karoti samadhyama. So yah karoti samadhyama. That person is a madhyama. Who is a madhyama? It is said that Ishvara, for the Lord, prema, has devotion, one has love, or at least one is aspiring to have love for the Lord. The Lord is the object of supreme devotion for me. Then for the devotees, tad adhineshu, then there is maitri. One develops friendship with the devotees because we are all, the devotees are also like-minded. Devotees also have the same values that we have and we want to grow toward them. So that's friendship. With the devotees, there's friendship. And then for the innocent, krupa, so then balisheshu, there is krupa, there is kindness, there is compassion. So some people may not know about God, and then by our kindness, by our gentleness, we manifest God's grace, God's love for them, and that's how we attract them. So we see everybody as a part of God, and those who don't know about God, we try to share knowledge about Him with them, knowledge of Him with them. And then there are people who are envious. As soon as we talk about God, they start criticizing, they start blaspheming. When you talk about Krishna, then they start speaking negatively about Krishna. So then such people, when they're envious, the devotees at the Madhyama level keep a distance from them. Now they neglect and keep a distance from them, not because the devotees hate them. Rather, the devotees understand that if such people are reminded about Krishna or even generically about God, they are only going to become angry. And when they become angry, they'll criticize God more, they'll offend God more, and that will be bad for them itself. And that's why it's best that I keep a distance from them. So this is neglect. So this is basically the theme in the Madhyama-adhikārī is understand the different devotees are at different levels and approach them differently. So or different people are at different levels, and we need to know how to deal with whom so that we can reciprocate appropriately. So then, broadly speaking, is a Madhyama would be a moderate. At the Kaniştha level, people often become sentimental or fanatical. My way is the only way. But Madhyama understands that actually, yes, God can manifest in different ways to different people. So Madhyama doesn't become fanatical about things. And this is very important. So much of the conflict in religion comes because people are more concerned with proving that they are right rather than improving themselves. So that, for example, when there is an argument, what I am saying is right and what you're saying is wrong, then both of them say, no, what I am saying is right, what you're saying is wrong. So both of them are trying to prove that they are right. But more important than proving is improving. Improving means that whatever I am practicing, that is for me to raise my consciousness. That is for me to become a better human being. That is for me to become a better devotee. So when we have this focus, we can avoid so much conflict. Now, do we need to prove, say for example, somebody is an atheist. Do we need to prove to them the existence of God? Well, ultimately nobody can prove the existence of God to anyone. We can give them some pointers, some evidences. The proof has to happen in the court of their heart itself. And that will happen in the court of their hearts when they are ready for it. So we can definitely provide pointers, but our focus shouldn't be so much outward as inward. Proving means it's an outward focus, that you are wrong, I am right. Improving is an inward focus. So we may of course have to do some proving, but that's not the focus. Most conflicts happen because there is too much of outer focus. And there's inner focus, things can move forward much better. So this is the Madhyama level. And then there is the Uttama-adhikārī. Uttama-adhikārī is the devotee at the topmost level. And what is their characteristic? So two main characteristics from our perspective. One is Uttama-adhikārī sees God everywhere. And secondly, the Uttama-adhikārī doesn't criticize anyone. And the two are very related. Anya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabdhya. So why would, if somebody saw God everywhere, why would they not criticize anyone? Let's understand this. Basically, one understands that God is present in everyone's heart. This is the this is not just an understanding, but this is the experience. This is a realization which the Uttama-adhikārī has. And he has an understanding that everybody is on a spiritual journey and God is guiding them. Krishna is there in the heart. Sarvasya chaham hridisan nivishto is present in the heart of every single being. And because he's present in the hearts of everyone, and he is guiding everyone. So what one needs to do is, okay, Krishna is there in their hearts, and how can I be, as a servant of Krishna, help them forward? So they might be, whatever they might be believing right now, whatever they might be practicing right now, that doesn't matter. That whatever is happening for them, it's all under Krishna's plan. And because it's all under Krishna's plan, I can only say, what can I do as a part of Krishna's plan? So this doesn't mean that such a devotee doesn't understand what is right or wrong, but understands that everybody is under Krishna's guidance. In that sense, everybody is being taken forward by Krishna. So if there is some service for me, I will do, but the devotee doesn't get, the Uttama devotee doesn't get into too much of a critical mentality. So this is where we can have empathy in our relationship with others. And this is a very important principle. When we are dealing with people, we should focus on understanding how people are feeling and not on telling them how they should be feeling. So now, of course, so for example, there is often an attempt when in a society that is too moralistic. You should not think like this. You should not feel like this. Okay, but I'm feeling like that right now. What do I do? Okay, if you're feeling like that, you're a horrible person. You should never have thoughts like this. You should never have desires like this. If you feel like this, you're going to go to hell. If somebody starts speaking like that, and first of all, it's super judgmental, and secondly, it's super unhelpful. We need to provide people the resources. Okay, you're thinking like this. Why are you thinking like this? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that is the way you're looking at it. Yeah, if I was also looking at it from that way, I might think like this. But, that's not the only way to look at this. Maybe you can look at it from this way. And in fact, this way will make more sense. And if you look at it this way, then you won't feel that way. So people's emotions are often products of their visions. And instead of helping them acquire a more refined vision, if we simply criticize their unrefined emotions, then that alienates them. Atmaupam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yo arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the topmost yogis see all living beings equally. All living beings equally. Why do they see like that? Because they see that everybody is ultimately seeking happiness. Everybody fears trouble, and everybody is essentially similar. So that's why there is a profound level of empathy. And of course, if somebody has, say, some inappropriate emotions, inappropriate thoughts, then we can provide them the resources to change those. But rather than judging and condemning, there has to be understanding and then customized provision of the appropriate resources. So this brings us to the starting point of this verse talk, that respect, as I said, respect is given and respect is also earned. So we could put another way as respect needs to be both universal, that we respect everyone at one level, but also proportional. Say a parent, now a parent will respect their, say if in the family there is a husband and wife, they may respect their parents in a particular way. They may respect their siblings in a particular way. They may respect their kids in a different way. Now, normally we don't talk about parents respecting their children, but it's the parents also have a regard for their children. They have affection. And now that respect is there at one basic level for everyone, but the respect is expressed differently. The parents may respect their children by disciplining them at times, but the parents may not discipline their parents, the grandparents in that particular case. So it's proportional. So this verse says that, how do we respect different devotees? Kaniştha-adhikārī, those who are basically practicing bhakti, For them, we offer mental obeisances. Whenever we see, we should offer our respects, at least in the mind. Then Madhyama-adhikārī, we actually offer physical obeisances. And Uttama-adhikārī, not just obeisances, but we serve them with dedication. And what happens by this? We are seeing Krishna manifesting at different levels in different devotees. And by being submissive, by being respectful, we connect with Krishna at a deeper level. So Krishna is present in everyone's heart. But Krishna is not manifest equally in everyone's heart. It depends on their consciousness. So to the extent we understand this principle, to that extent, we can, in those whom Krishna is manifest more, or through those whom Krishna is manifest more, we respect them more. Now that is the fifth verse. And as I said, I'll try to complete 6 and 7. Fifth was going to be the most exhaustive. And 6 and 7 are not that detailed. So let's look at the 6th verse now. So this is talking about something very interesting. That when we are looking at devotees, so it talked about, say there is first level, second level, third level, Kanishtha, Madhyama, Uttama. So how do we know somebody is Uttama? So sometimes we may have some stereotypes of how a devotee should be. And this verse asks us to go beyond such stereotypes. So let's look at the verse first. So, Drishtai swabhava-janitayir vapushascha doshayir na prakritatvam iha bhakta janasya pashyet gangambasam na khalu buddhafena pankayir brahma dravatvam apagachyati nira dharmai. So, Drishtai swabhava-janitayir. So, Drishtai is vision. So, in one's vision, swabhava-janitayir. So, as per one's bodily nature, swabhava janita, those which are born from vapusha, vapusha is the body, doshai. So different people based on their particular body might have certain deficiencies. So for example, some people may have a dark complexion, some people may have a fair complexion, some people may be short, some people may be tall, some people may have some physical limitations, some people may have some scars. So there can be doshair. Different kinds of deficiencies might be there, defects might be there at the level of the body. Na prakritatvam iha bhakta janasya pashyet. So bhakta janasya, in the devotees, don't see them. So drishtai means we will notice them, but pashyet means don't focus on them. You see them, but don't focus on them. Just like say, if we are talking with someone who maybe has some leprosy scar on their face, then we may notice it, but we don't dwell on it and we don't talk about it. Hey, and we don't obsess over it. We try to make that other person feel comfortable. So similarly, na prakritatvam. This is prakritatvam. This is just materialistic. Don't obsess on it. It's a product of the body. And an example is given. Gangambhasam. Ganga, the Ganga is considered a very sacred river. Amba is water. Just as in the water of the Ganga, sometimes budbudafena pankai, sometimes there may be bubbles, sometimes there may be dirt particles, sometimes there might be various contaminations. So now within the Ganga there might be contaminations, but the Ganga itself doesn't become contaminated. So if we are, say, taking some sacred drops of water from the Ganga and sprinkling it, then if we get some water and we see some dirt in it, we might just push it aside gently and then just take the water. We don't think the whole water has become contaminated by that. So the Ganga is still considered sacred. Brahma dravatvam apagachyati nira dharmai. So Brahma dravatvam, it is actually, Ganga is divinity being manifested, spiritual dravatvam. Spirituality is being manifested through the matter. And apagachyati nira dharmai. So ordinary water might get contaminated, but Ganga is transcendence manifesting in this world and Ganga doesn't get contaminated. So similarly, devotees, their bodies might have certain physical limitations, defects, but they don't affect the devotee's devotion. They don't affect the devotee's essence. And we shouldn't get distracted by those and lose focus on the essence. So here, the theme is separating the essential from the peripheral. So the peripheral is that which is small, that which is minor. And essential is that which is core. In fact, this is seen as one definition of the intelligence. The intelligence is, okay, what is central, what is peripheral? So here, there's the 4-quadrant diagram, that below is external appearance and above is inner substance. So now if there is no proper appearance and there is no proper substance, that means the person, say, dresses in a way, that person, maybe that person has a liquor bottle in their hands and they're smelling of maybe drugs, and that person is also talking just nonsense, then obviously they're not devotees. So there's no proper appearance and there's no proper substance also. Then somebody takes care a lot about the external appearance, but they have no inner substance. That means they have no desire even for devotion. Or somebody puts on the external garb so that they can look like a devotee, but then after they are putting on that garb, then they are looking for opportunities to exploit others. Oh, this person has so much, is showing so much respect to me, so much faith, so much, so professing so much faith, then I will make them do what I want them to do. And then they may exploit others. So karma indriyani sanyamya yasate manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita 3:6, he says that if we externally restrain ourselves and appear saintly, appear pure, appear spiritual, but then internally we are constantly thinking about how to enjoy our senses, then that is not very good. That is mithyachara. It is false behavior. It is hypocrisy. Now, here, if somebody doesn't care for the outer appearance, but they have inner substance, then they could be transcendental devotees. Here we could put transcendental somewhat in double quotes. Why in double quotes? Because the idea is that this kind of transcendence is not necessarily the recommended or the best kind of transcendence. So there could be some devotees who don't care for appearance. And so for example, it will say that Nityananda Prabhu, normally devotees are simple and they are renounced. So Nityananda Prabhu is internally renounced, but sometimes he would dress very opulently, put on ornaments and other things on his body. There's another devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He would also dress very opulently. So sometimes the devotee might not show the external appearance, but when they behold the Lord, when they hear some katha of the Lord, they just get so absorbed, so ecstatic. Oh, this is really transcendental. They are transcendental. But now, a socially responsible devotee tries to have both the appearance and the substance. Why? Because Prabhupada will sometimes say first dress and then address. That people can't see our heart. So people are going to look at the surface. And if the surface seems respectable, surface seems good, then they will go deeper. So a socially responsible devotee, the devotee themselves may not care for the appearance, but they do care that if Krishna's message is to be received properly, then for that reception, whatever is required, I will do that. So that is a social responsible devotee. But now sometimes this external appearance, some factors are in our control. And those which are in our control, we need to take care of them properly. And that's what devotees will, those who are responsible devotees, they will do that. But some aspects of the external appearance just may not be in our control. So what do we do at that time? That is what this verse is talking about. So let's look at how we all might have certain preconceptions about how do we define a devotee? Who is a devotee? So here could be, we might look at their caste, which caste they were born in. If somebody is born in a caste that is conventionally considered lower, hey, what do you think you can teach me? Somebody is born in a high caste, No, okay. Then they are already considered qualified. Now this is not true. It's not that suppose we go to a medical hospital and then we see a person over there and he says, I'm the son of this doctor. Okay, where is the doctor? No, the doctor is not here. I am here. I'll take care of you. Do you have medical degree? No, but I'm the son of the doctor. Well, that's fine, but that's not enough. So just the caste can't be used to judge a devotee. Similarly, appearance means some people have an idea that if you're a sadhu, then you should have a long beard or you should have a jata. Or different people might have different ideas of how a a devotee's appearance should be. Now, some people may go into some other externals. Say, for example, if somebody can pronounce Sanskrit mantras or recite shlokas very precisely and mellifluously, they think that's such a great person. Now, yes, it requires skill to recite mantras properly, and those who have put in the efforts to learn to recite the mantras properly or to recite the shlokas beautifully, they need to be appreciated for that. However, that alone doesn't define an advanced devotee. That is, we could say that is an ability which some people have, some people develop, but pronunciation is it's a bodily attribute. It can be used to glorify Krishna, but it depends on the voice box, the kind of vocal cords a person has. That itself does not signify a great devotee. And then some people may be very good at performing rituals. Say, for example, when some people do arti, they will move the chamar in such an elegant way. When they move the lamp, they will move it in a very beautiful way. They're doing abhishek. Their every movement is so graceful and elegant. Now, all that is good. If somebody can have that, that's good. There's nothing wrong in it. But just expertise in reciting mantras or performing rituals, they don't define a devotee. Srila Prabhupada, for example, when he was in Mumbai, there was a Hindu nationalist activist who was helping Prabhupada in the Juhu temple. And he came to Prabhupada and once he said, Swamiji, you pronounce Sanskrit mantras in a very Bengali way. And Prabhupada said, what can I do? I have a Bengali body. So Prabhupada was so nonchalant about it. Yes. In fact, his wording is also so precise. He says, I have a Bengali body. He didn't say I am a Bengali. I have a Bengali body. So he grew up in a particular place, particular way, and then he learned pronunciation in a particular way, and that's what he will do. But that is superficial. So once somebody came to Prabhupada and said that, Swamiji, I have memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. I can recite all the 700 verses of the Gita. And Prabhupada looked at him and Prabhupada said, can you live one verse of the Gita? He said, I can recite the whole Gita in 1 hour. So Prabhupada said, can you just live one verse of the Gita for 1 hour? So yes, again, this is not to minimize. Now, shloka recitation is wonderful. Doing the acts of deity worship is also wonderful. But we shouldn't reduce devotion to these things. We all may have some stereotypes of how a devotee should be. And this verse is telling us, go beyond such stereotypes. Don't get caught in our preconceptions of how a devotee should be. So we should be broad-minded. And what does broad-minded mean? One way to understand it is one who understands that reality is broader than what one's mind sees. A narrow-minded person is, they reduce reality down to what their mind's vision is. This is right and everything else is wrong. But a broad-minded person understands, okay, this is how I see things, but reality is much bigger than this. And from my vision, this appears to be right, but maybe from somebody else's vision, things could be different. So let me understand why others are seeing things in a different way. And that way, we can be broad-minded. So now Prabhupada also talks here about Vaishnava aparadha, offending a devotee. Now, what does offending a devotee mean? It's a spectrum. So here you see, at the bottom of the spectrum is, if anything that we do hurts a devotee, that's an offense. But that's not a very serious offense. So, sometimes just say if we are doing 10 services, and while doing 10 services, some devotee meets us and they greet us and we are caught in our thoughts and we don't greet them back. They might feel hurt by that. Why did you greet me? Now, is that an offense? Well, that's not a very serious offense. Especially the serious offenses are where we act out of envy to pull down a devotee. Oh, you think you are such a somebody says, oh, for example, it may happen that some devotee gives a great class and everybody is appreciating. Oh, this devotee was such a wonderful class. And we don't like that devotee being glorified. So we tell them, yeah, he might have given a great class, but did you see how much he ate? That means, oh, he's such a glutton. So now, what is happening is that when we don't like a devotee being respected, and we try to pull that devotee down from that respectable position out of envy, that is a serious aparadha. So sometimes we may have our own conceptions of what makes a person respectable. So some devotees might have great devotion for the Lord, but maybe because of whatever reason, maybe they are not musically very good, they don't recite verses properly, they don't do kirtans that well, or for whatever reason, they might not be able to do particular things. And if we make a big issue out of that, you think you're such a great devotee, but he can't even remember this verse. He can't even do that. He can't even sing this. Now, don't try to pull down a devotee based on these externals. Then it can become an offense. And offense can be quite damaging for our bhakti. So this is the 6th verse. Now we go to the 7th verse. So basically the verse text 4, 5, 6, they talk about how to associate with devotees. Text 7 now talks about, text 7 and 8 talk about how to practice bhakti. And we'll focus on that in today's verse, how to practice bhakti. We'll discuss the 7th one today. So, Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Naro Chikanu Kintva-adhikārī Khalu Saiva Jushta Swadvikramad Bhavati Tadgadamula Hantri. So, here it is saying, Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi, the name and the character of Krishna, Sita. It's actually sweet. It's sweet, but avidya pitopatapta. Now we are all afflicted by pitta. Pitta tapta. So in Ayurveda, when a person is afflicted at the pitta level, then they can't pursue sweetness. Say for example, that happens in jaundice. Rasanasya narochikanu. Rasanasya refers to the tongue. Narochikanu. The tongue has no taste. But then it says, so although a jaundice person may not have a taste for anything sweet, if they are given sugarcane juice, they can't taste their sweets. But still, if they keep drinking it, Kintva-adhikārī khalu saiva jushta. If respectfully every day they keep drinking and relishing, they keep drinking that sugarcane juice, that will cure their disease. Swadvi kramad bhavati tadgad moolahantri. Swadvi, that's taste will develop kramad gradually. And then not only will the taste develop, but tadgad moolahantri, the cause, the disease, the imbalance in the body that is the disease, that will get removed. So the verse implication is that even if you don't get taste, continue practicing, continue say chanting the names of Krishna, continue hearing about Krishna, continue practicing bhakti. So the theme here is to get the taste, pass the test. To get the taste, pass the test. What is the test? I'll explain that as we move forward. But taste is the joy in remembering Krishna, and that comes gradually. So how to practice bhakti? For practicing bhakti, there is this reverse effect formula that we need to understand. What do I mean by the reverse effect formula, reverse effect principle? That quite often in life, things turn out to be opposite to the way they appear to be. Things turn out to be the opposite of how they appear to be. That's the reverse effect. So something appears very enjoyable, but then it turns out to be very miserable. Something appears to be very austere, but then it turns out to be very fulfilling. That's the reverse effect principle. So why can't we experience Krishna's sweetness? Because our consciousness is presently covered. Krishna is sweet. Krishna is Akhila Rasaramrita Murti, is filled with rasa, filled with joy. So just like iron filings, if they are covered by rust, then they aren't attracted to magnet. Similarly, we aren't attracted to Krishna. But it doesn't matter. The rust can be removed, and then actually the iron filings will become attracted to the magnet. So similarly, we need to wait for the iron filings to be removed. So this is the nature of spiritual happiness. This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 18:37. And what does it say here? That Vishayendriya Sanyo, that Yattad Agre Vishamiva, Pariname Amritopamam, that Sukham Satvikam Proktam, Atma Buddhi Prasadajam, that which tastes like poison in the beginning, but tastes like nectar in the end. That is happiness in the mode of goodness. And that is also the happiness in bhakti. That is also the nature of spiritual happiness. That often initially it feels like a big discipline. Why do I have to do this again and again and again? I don't feel like doing it. And to have to do something that we don't feel like doing, that's the essence of discipline. So it's not easy to do it. It feels like poison. But if we do it, then we come to the nectar. So just like, say, if somebody wants to become healthy and they'd start doing exercise. Now, doing a workout doesn't always feel good immediately. It's sometimes exhausting, we get sweaty, but gradually as our health improves, we feel better about it. So from the poison to the nectar. So this is a reverse effect. How things appear to be initially, they're actually the opposite of that. And conversely, there is happiness in the mode of passion. We could call this as broadly worldly happiness. So the nature of worldly happiness is that it tastes like nectar initially, but turns out to be like poison eventually. So happiness in the mode of passion, Vishayendriya Sanyogad, Yattad Agre Amritopamam. So Agre Amritopamam, initially like nectar. Pariname Vishamiva. But in the end, it is like poison. Tat Sukham Rajasamskritam. So why is it like this? Say, for example, somebody gets into some bad habit, like say drugs or whatever. And initially, they might feel, hey, I enjoy it. But eventually, when they become addicted, it's horrible. So then it's like poison. They may lose their health, they may lose their wealth, they may lose their relationships, they may lose their reputation. They might even lose everything that they value in their life. So it's poison. When somebody gets addicted, it's very, very difficult to get out of it. So this is happiness in the mode of passion. So when we are practicing bhakti, we need to know that there will be a poison initially, but I need to persist through the poison till I will get to the nectar. So now let us look at how bhakti works. So serious practice removes our conditionings and releases our potential attraction for Krishna. Just like I said that there are iron filings, but they're covered by rust. So what do we need to do? We need to remove the rust, and then the iron filing natural property manifests. Natural attraction, natural attractability toward the magnet manifests. So similarly, within our consciousness, there are many conditionings. There are so many worldly impressions. There is craving, there is anger, there is greed, there is envy. All these things are there. And when they are there, they often misdirect us. But by the practice of bhakti, when we bring ourselves in contact with all pure Krishna, then all these impurities start going away. It's like, suppose, say there is a sewage pipe, there's like a gutter, just filled with dirty water. And if you just bring a flow of fresh water into it, just keep bringing fresh water, then all the dirty water gets swept out and the fresh water comes in over there. So like that, there may be many contaminated thoughts in our consciousness, but if you just bring in fresh and pure thoughts, they will keep coming, and then the impure thoughts will go away. So then that day, our natural attraction for Krishna, potential which is already there, that will manifest. That's how bhakti works. So now, last part of this talk. So how do we persevere in our bhakti practice? That means, say right now I don't have taste, and every time I have to follow the rules, it feels such like a burden. So I'll talk about three principles. Just like in India, becoming an IAS officer requires effort. Nobody can just become IAS by waking up one day and I'm an IAS officer. It requires years and years of study. So we could talk about a spiritual IAS. So intelligence, association, and service attitude. So how do we persevere in bhakti? It is with our intelligence that we understand that when we take medicine, we take the medicine for its effect, not for its taste. If the medicine tastes good, that's great. But even if the medicine doesn't taste good, I know this is going to have an effect, beneficial effect. It's going to heal me. Therefore, I will take this medicine. So take medicine for the effect, not for the taste. And for us, it is important when we are practicing bhakti, we understand right now I am spiritually sick. Although I'm an eternal being, I'm craving for temporary things. And as I am putting myself in trouble, in illusion. So let me direct my heart, my consciousness toward the eternal. And for that redirection, this practice of bhakti is a cure. So with our intelligence, we need to regularly remind ourselves about why we are practicing bhakti. So if we understand it's like a medicine, so we hear about Krishna, we chant about Krishna, we remember Krishna, and whether it feels good or not, we will observe that the effect will be there. We will become purer, we'll become wiser, we'll become calmer. All this effect will come as we practice bhakti. So that's why if you see, if we have to say do some rituals, say we want to chant the holy names, we want to do any kind of ritual, if we hear about it a little bit before, why is the chanting important? Why is this seva important? And then we convince our intelligence by that, then after that we do it, we'll be much more driven to do it. So take medicine for the effect, not for the taste. Now, it's not that we don't want the taste, but the taste is not the purpose why we take the medicine. We take the medicine for the effect. And then association is vital. We talked about association earlier also, and I told you how the essence of association is the transfer of desires. So that same principle we can apply with us in our bhakti practice, that we need to find like-minded association that encourages us through hard times. So for example, some days we may not feel like waking up in the morning. Some days we may not feel like doing a particular activity. But then if there are some other devotees with whom we are doing those things, and they remind us, they prod us a little bit. And we make if anytime we make a commitment, okay, I'm going to do this, then we make a shared commitment with someone else. Oh, we'll do it together. Oh, that's wonderful. Then sometimes we are down and they pick us up, and sometimes they are down and we pick them up. So in general, for doing anything which is a little challenging, having like-minded people who support us in doing it is important. In fact, we could say it's indispensable. So that's how we can persevere even through times when we don't feel like doing things. And last part is service attitude. What do I mean by service attitude? This is the key thing, that if we are truly the servants of God, if we understand that that is my eternal position, that I love the Lord, I love Krishna and I want to serve Krishna, then the question I should be asking is, ask not what God is doing for me, ask what I am doing for God. So now, that's why I said pass the test. To get the taste, pass the taste. Sorry, get the taste, T-A-S-T-E, pass the test, T-E-S-T. Test means that are we approaching Krishna for loving him, or are we approaching Krishna for using him? Using him means, Krishna, I have this problem, you please solve it for me. Now, Krishna is happy if we approach him for any reason. Even if we approach him for using him, Krishna is happy. Just like, say, suppose you have a child who has now become a teenager or is a college student now and is away from home. And the child never calls you. But then the child calls you, the kid, now not exactly a child, is a kid or a youth, calls you only when he or she needs money. Now, if they are in big trouble and they need money, you'll be feel happy. At least they're calling me and not just getting into bigger trouble by doing something unscrupulous, something nefarious. So, in that sense, it's good that that the child is calling the parents. But then, what the parents want is they want a relationship with the child, isn't it? So similarly, if we go to God only when we are in trouble for solving our problems, and then our only mode of interaction with God is, what are you doing for me? Then that's not a very satisfying way of interacting with Him. But if we want a satisfying relationship, then the focus should be on, what can I do for God? Now, what God is doing for me can be in terms of solving our problems. Oh, I have a big problem in my health or in my business or this or that. Or it could be also in terms of, I'm just doing the chanting. Why is God not giving me taste? Well, whether God gives us taste or not, am I doing some service? Am I pleasing Krishna by this? So, am I trying to please Krishna by this? What am I doing? Am I offering my consciousness to Krishna? If I'm offering, that's wonderful. That's what I need to be doing. So if we have this service attitude, then even if our bhakti doesn't give us taste, still we will persevere. And when Krishna sees that actually we are doing this not just for our pleasure but for His pleasure, He will become immensely pleased and He will give us pleasure. It is not that Krishna wants us to go through phases of tastelessness and suffer. Krishna wants us to have the highest joy, but the highest joy comes through selflessness. And sometimes when we don't get taste in our devotional practices, that's an opportunity to show Krishna that we are doing it selflessly. Even if I don't get taste, I'll do it for your pleasure. And when we demonstrate such selflessness, Krishna will reward us richly. And we will start experiencing sublime spiritual joy in our devotional practices. So I'll summarize what I spoke today and we can have a few questions. So today I talked about the topic of 3 verses we discussed today. First was how we can relate with devotees at different levels. Talked about 3 levels of devotees: Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. Kanishta means they see God only in external symbols, external sacred symbols, and they often fight over superficial things. And so Madhyama is those who are moderates. They understand that how I relate with God depends on how I relate with everyone. And then I talk about 4 levels. They love the Lord, befriend the devotees, they are compassionate toward the innocent, and they keep a distance from the envious. And in Uttama-adhikārī, they see Krishna everywhere and they're just delighted in seeing Krishna everywhere. And they don't criticize anyone because they see that God's plan is operating in everyone's life. And then we discussed that respect at one level is universal. We respect everyone as a human being, everyone is a part of God. But at the same time, respect is proportional based on how much a particular person is advanced to what level. And then within that, I discussed about 3 levels. Kanishta level, we offer mental obeisances. So those who are chanting the names of Krishna, we offer them mental obeisances. Those who are dedicated to serving Krishna, they are initiated, like we offer them Madhyama-adhikārī, we offer them physical obeisances, and the topmost devotees, we serve them with our heart. Then the next verse was about the external appearance and the inner substance in looking at devotees. So socially responsible devotees try to have both the external appearance and the inner substance. We discussed the 4 quadrant. If there's nothing, then a person is completely a materialist non-devotee, either appearance nor substance. If there's only appearance nor substance, it's a hypocrite. Somebody has substance but not appearance, then they will be very transcendental. But we try to be socially responsible. However, while trying to maintain an external appearance which is respectable, we cannot pander to everyone's expectation of what comprises a respectable devotee. And so we from the other side also, we shouldn't impose our preconceptions or stereotypes on people, on devotees. So a devotion is not determined, a devotee's caliber is not determined by their birth caste, it is not determined by their skin color, it is not determined by their externalities like say their capacity to pronounce mantras clearly or do rituals elegantly. We need to look at how much they are devoted to Krishna. And that way when we see, then we will be able to connect deeply. And lastly, we discussed about chanting and practicing bhakti, how there's a reverse effect principle. Sometimes that which doesn't taste good will eventually taste very good if we persevere. And that which tastes like poison in the beginning will taste like nectar. So how do we persevere to the poison to get to the nectar? I talked about IAS, use your intelligence to know that I'm taking a medicine. Medicine is to be taken for effect, not taste. Then association, have some other people, when we fall down, feel ourselves low down, they will lift us up. And S is service attitude. We are here not to get pleasure from Krishna, but to give pleasure to Krishna. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. So, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, quickly one thing. We're not able to see your video. Is everyone able to see Chaitanya Charan Prabhu?
Really? I'm able to see, I mean, my video is on, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
we are able to see.
Huh?
We are able to see Prabhu.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, so there's, I don't know. Right. Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Fantastic. I just, was not able to see you, so therefore I said that. So any questions, please feel free. We have a good 20 minutes, for questions. So Vrindavan Shyam Prabhu, you've raised your hand. Can you ask your question, please? Please unmute yourself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vrindavan Shyam Prabhu, you've raised your hand, so can you ask your question? Vrindavan Shyam Prabhu, can you hear us?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandas Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandas Prabhu. So can you ask your question, Prabhu, since you had raised your hand?
Dandas Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhu,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask that you said about Madhyama-adhikārī, improving. Like, what does that statement mean? Improving and improving. Like, I not follow up the improving statement. Like, how do you, what do you mean by improving?
Okay. So, sorry, your question is, what do you mean by improving as compared to proving?
Yes,
Is that
Madhyama-adhikārī. Yeah.
okay? So when I say a Madhyama-adhikārī focuses more on proving than on improving than on proving. What I mean is 2-3 different things. Sometimes when we are too new, when we are new on the spiritual path, then across religious traditions, there is something which is called as the zeal of the new convert. Zeal of the new convert means that somebody becomes a born again Christian or somebody adopts a particular religion. Then they think that I know how to deliver the whole world and I am right and everyone else is wrong. And they often become self-righteous, self-congratulatory, and quite condescending toward others. And that can be quite alienating. So their concern is that they want to prove that the path I am following is right and everybody else, whatever they're doing, is wrong. Now, first of all, is it okay if I mute everyone? Yeah. So now it is for them, not only is it that it's a matter of the ego, I want to prove them that I'm right and they are wrong. It's not just always a matter of the ego. It could also, their faith is very shallow. So for them, the rightness of some other path becomes a threat to their path. By path, I don't necessarily mean, say, for example, it could be not just say we are following a particular, we follow Krishna consciousness, somebody else may follow Christianity, somebody else may follow Islam, whatever other religions. But even within Krishna consciousness, different devotees may have different focuses. So some devotees may focus a lot on book distribution. Some devotees may focus a lot on temple construction. Some devotees may focus a lot on studying Bhagavatam and memorizing verses and analyzing different acharyas' commentaries. Some devotees may focus a lot on deity worship, and they may have elaborate deities at their homes and do a lot of deity worship. Some devotees may focus a lot on japa, and they may chant not just 16, but they may chant 64 rounds and like that. Now, different devotees can be inspired by different things. But now, if Krishna is inspiring a particular devotee in a particular way, that doesn't have to be like a threat to some other devotee. Yeah, Krishna can, this devotee is being inspired this way, wonderful, and I'm being inspired this way. So let both of us move toward Krishna. So the idea is when we become too insecure, then we become too aggressive. So proving means this is the right way to practice bhakti and that is all wrong. That's where our focus is. So our faith comes not so much by our inner experience of Krishna as our outer ability to impose our understanding on others. So by improving means that we enrich our consciousness, we strengthen our connection with Krishna. That's okay. So if I am experiencing a connection with Krishna, I'm experiencing enrichment by studying the Bhagavatam, then somebody else may distribute books and they may be glorified in the community. Yeah, but I'm studying Bhagavatam, I'll do the service in a particular way. That's fine. So if that's how we are nourished in our practice of bhakti, we need to be grateful for that. And we move forward in our bhakti by that way. So we don't have to belittle anybody else's bhakti, and we don't have to feel belittled by anybody else's bhakti also. So that way, the focus is more on improving ourselves rather than on proving. So does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Understandable.
No, I think it was a very good response that resonates with all of us.
Thank you. Happy to be of service.
Wonderful. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, next question is from Hari Bhaskar Prabhu. Hari Bhaskar Prabhu, could you kindly unmute yourself? And
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for an excellent class. My question is it initiation is mandatory to move from Kanishta to Madhyama? And if yes, how it is practiced in other religious sects?
Okay, so is initiation mandatory for moving from Kanishta to Madhyama? And if yes, how is it practiced in other religious traditions? Okay, there are two distinct things over here. That what do we mean by initiation, first of all? Imagine if there is a mountain and the bottom of the mountain is, say, here, and the top of the mountain is here, the peak. There could be different ways to climb up the top of the mountain. Now, in some ways, it might be very rocky, and somebody might need a different set of equipment. One path might be very slippery, and one may need a different kind of shoes. Other part might be filled with too much green overgrowth. One may need to carry some other equipment to go up. But the idea is all the paths that are going up the mountain, they are going up the mountain. This doesn't mean all paths automatically are going up the mountain. Some paths may be going down also. That's different. But if a path is going up the mountain, that doesn't mean every path going up the mountain has to be identical. So in different religions, in different traditions, in different paths within a particular tradition also, there could be different specifics, but the overall principles remain the same. Now, we could say initiation essentially means commitment. See, initiation is not intrinsically, what it means is one commits oneself to the practice of a particular process. So in our tradition, initiation is done a particular way. We take a particular set of vows, and then thereafter we commit ourselves to the practice of bhakti. So now in other traditions, the paths, specifics of the paths might be different. So there might not be initiation in the same way. There might not be exactly initiation itself. The concept might not be so much there. So it is not that if say we know that when we die, what we remember at the time of death, the state of our consciousness is what determines where we will go. So at the time of death, Krishna is not going to check, did you attend a particular religious ceremony called initiation? If not, then get out. You are not going to come and go any further. No, Krishna is going to look at the state of our heart. So we have to look at this, but there is a process that can help us cultivate our heart better, that can transform our heart faster. And if we follow that process, then that is a healthy way to advance. So is initiation necessary? Initiation in the sense of commitment to the process of bhakti, the process for spiritual growth is essential. And if we choose to follow a particular path, then we need to follow the specifics of that path also. So if we are going up a mountain by a path that is marshy, that is filled with wet soil, then we may need gum boots, big thick boots we might need. So if we follow a particular path, then we need to follow the specifics of that path also. So if we are following the Gaudiya Vaishnava path under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada talk about the indispensability of initiation for spiritual advancement. It's an essential step forward. Now in other traditions, it is God who is guiding them, and how specifically God will guide them, that will vary. So whichever path somebody follows, if they follow it in a committed way, they will advance. Now how far they will go up, that depends on how much love of God they develop. So it may vary from person to person within one path, and it may vary from path to path. It depends on, the essence is our commitment to devote ourselves to loving God. And if we do our part in offering our love to the Lord will guide us ahead, what we need to do to develop that love. So initiation in the sense of commitment is essential. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. The next question comes from Kishori Mataji. How do we deal with devotees with no empathy, although they are very well versed in the scriptures?
Okay. How do we deal with devotees who have no empathy, even when they are well versed in scriptures? Okay, this is difficult. I would say three things we could say. First is that different people are of different natures. Some people are more introvert, but they just like to be with themselves and not so much with people. So some people are more, they live in their head so much. So they don't think, some people are more rational, some people are more emotional. So that is just the way their body mind works. And sometimes it might just not be possible for them to express a high level of empathy in a way that we might express, or we might expect others should be able to express. So basically, each one of us has a particular psychophysical nature, and that can't be changed. Now, ideally speaking, devotees who are not very expressive in terms of, say, expressing empathy or human emotions, or not able to express human connections, now they should not be in roles which require that kind of human connections. So if somebody is a counselor and they are always very grave and morose, and they are not at all affable and approachable, then they can't play the role of a counselor or a mentor. They need to be friendly. So then they could do other services. Maybe they could do pujari services on their own. They could be thinkers, they could write, they could be artists. So there are various ways in which devotees can serve. So first is we have to look at the nature of people, and the basic nature itself will not be changed by spiritual growth. If somebody is if somebody is, say, more of a managerial kind of person, then it's not that they will become suddenly intellectual by the practice of bhakti. They may be managerial, but they will do management for Krishna's sake rather than for maybe for their own power or their own prestige and position. So somebody who is more intellectual, it's not that if they love ideas more than people, then it's not that just because they become the advanced devotee, suddenly they will start loving people more than ideas. But their ideas will change and they will be thinking more about Krishna than about worldly things. But so there is a basic psychophysical nature which all of us have. And if we understand that spiritual advancement doesn't change the psychophysical nature, so empathy will be there, but empathy may not be expressed in that way. The same devotee who may never express one kind word, they may maybe they privately they pray for a devotee. We don't know what is going on in the heart between them and Krishna. So that's the first thing with respect to understanding people's nature. So sometimes we may just, if we find consistently a devotee behaves in that way itself, then we need to lower our expectation from that devotee. Okay, I mean, it's unlikely. For some people, praise comes out of them like rainfall in the Sahara Desert. It's extremely rare. So then we can't express not even praise, even appreciation from them so much. That's the first thing. Second thing is that, but we may need a certain level of empathy, a certain level of encouragement, certain level of appreciation, or at least a certain level of human connection. So if we need it, then we need to find those devotees who can give it to us. So if we expect it from some person, we don't get it, then within our community, within the principles of dharma, we look for some other relationship appropriately where we can get that empathy. So in the past, when people lived in joint families, there was one advantage that, that too much expectation was not centered on one relationship. Okay, if one person cannot satisfy a particular emotional need, there are so many other people who could satisfy that emotional need. So if we are a part of a community, then there might be some devotees who might not be empathic, but some others might be. And we can connect with them more. That's the second point. And third point is that with respect to empathy, sometimes if we tell a devotee that if we have a good relationship with that devotee, and it's not that that devotee doesn't care for us, but they just don't know how to express care in a way that we value, then we can communicate to them that say, when we could just not speaking, you are such an ungrateful person, you are such an insensitive person, that becomes like an attack on that person. That's not a very healthy way to communicate. But if you say, when I brought this for you and you didn't even thank me for it, I felt bad about it, I felt disappointed, I felt devalued. So speaking like this is okay. That means that person understands that, okay, yeah, I should have done this. That's a simple example, but basically sometimes we may need empathy in a particular way. So some people we may want them to speak some kind words to us. They may run around and do various things for us, but they may not speak those kind words because that's not the way they think. They think, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for you. Like it happens with, say, a child and his father. The father may work very hard to buy a new bat and a ball for the child to play. But the child doesn't want a new bat and a ball. The child wants the father to play with me. I don't care whether I have an old bat or an old ball. I want you to play with me. So the father is expressing love through things, but the child expects love through time. Give some time to me. So then if we can express our need in a particular way, then they might listen sometimes. And if they listen, then that can also help them to become more empathic. So these are three broad things which we can have in mind when we deal with devotees who are not empathic. They understand their nature, get our need fulfilled from some other devotee, and articulate our need in a non-judgmental way, so that we give them the opportunity to also fulfill that need. Does it answer the question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
It was a complex question, but very nicely answered, isn't it, Kishori Mataji?
Indeed, it was
Yes.
very nicely answered. But can we then say that all devotees are sweet and they are we cannot judge them on how they are, and therefore when we go to the spiritual kingdom also, we will have different ganas,
Different what? Different
groups of devotees with the same natures in the spiritual world.
Okay. So can we say that all devotees are sweet and different devotees are different natures? So we shouldn't judge them? Well, there is a difference between judging and discriminating. And the word discrimination itself has a negative connotation nowadays. We talk about gender discrimination or racial discrimination. But we could use the word discern. So when we are judging someone, we are putting ourselves in a higher position and we're looking down, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you. But discerning is more from a humble position of our human needs. Say, if we have a particular need and if a particular devotee is not able to fulfill that, then for us to discern that, okay, I'm not going to get this from this devotee, maybe I'll need to go to this devotee for that. So that discernment is not judging. And that discernment we need to do. You say, for example, if you want to tell somebody, please give this message to that person. And if we know a devotee is always forgetful, then maybe that is not the best person to convey a message. Better convey it to someone else. So the point I'm making is that discerning is vital. If we don't discern, we will become dysfunctional. Because we will end up entrusting devotees with tasks that they can't do, or we will be ending up having expectations from devotees that they can't fulfill. So judging is unhealthy, discerning is essential. And as far as there being different groups of devotees, yes, definitely. Even in the spiritual world, because there are different devotees. So, for example, now Krishna Janmashtami and Radhashtami are coming. So it is said that even in Krishna Lila, there are the right wing and the left wing gopis. So some gopis focus on pleasing Krishna directly. Say Chandravali is the leader of those gopis. And Radharani, she doesn't, of course, she also wants to please Krishna, but externally, she demands that Krishna please her. So she sometimes gets angry with Krishna and Krishna has to beg and pacify her. So the mood, the inner intent of pleasing Krishna is the same, but the way in which the devotee goes about doing it is different. So yes, so some devotees may be expressing their affection, their empathy, their devotion in a different way from what we can appreciate. So we can respect the diversity of devotees, and at the same time, we can check how our individual needs can also be addressed. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any further questions? Though we have hit the 8:30, but if there is any last question, most welcome.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask?
Hare Krishna. Sunaja Mataji?
Yeah, can I ask one question, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Like Prabhuji explained about how bhakti should be and how a pure devotee should be. So how much importance is like how a person is inside and the same way he reflects on to outside, how much will be the bhakti and for a devotee to be in that way? Like many times we will see people like what they are outside may not be the same from the inside. So how much it should have a balance for each other?
Okay. The important question, how much should there be a balance between internal and external? Hell, there are 4 different possibilities. See, one is, at one level, unless we are completely pure, there will always be a distance between our internals and externals. So it's only a completely pure person, as soon as they behold Krishna, they feel a flood of love for Krishna. As soon as they see a devotee, they feel such a joy overflowing in their hearts. For all of us, it may not be like that. So now, say this is the internal, so this is the external, this is the internal. Now when we have some distance between the two, why is the distance there? Now, it could be because of discipline. Discipline means that we want the internal, but we don't have it right now. So in general, how do we develop any skill? It is by doing it. So as they say that sometimes we may have to act our way to the feelings. That means, say, when we go in front of Krishna and fold our hands and offer prayers, even when we don't feel like praying, but gradually by doing that, the emotion comes. So if there is a gap between the external and internal, but our intent is we want to develop the internal, and so it's a matter of discipline. So that is not unhealthy. Another could be a matter of culture. Sometimes we may be very angry with someone, but especially if that person is older to us, then we may not speak in a loud voice to them. And that is a matter of culture. Now, if we are angry, we may want to convey that anger in an appropriate way, but we maintain certain cultural deference. So a difference between internal and external, if it is because of culture, and it's not that just that it's like we are boiling within and we don't speak anything, but we may express it in a more appropriate way, but we don't just explode. Ideally, we shouldn't explode at anyone in a completely indiscriminate way, but culture means to some extent we restrain our internals and don't let them come out as externals. Sometimes some devotees say that that if we could look into each other's hearts, we would know whom to trust. So we could have relationships so nicely then. We wouldn't be betrayed by that. But it's not that simple. Actually, nature has given us that buffer by which we can't see into each other's hearts. Now, for example, if people could see into our hearts, I don't think we could sustain even a single relationship. Because inside us, so many unwanted thoughts, desires, emotions keep coming. Hey, you think like this about me? You have that kind of desires? You feel that way? My God. So not a single relationship could be sustained. So it is, we could say, culture or civilization, that although there are certain things that come up internally, but gradually culture or civilization means we restrain them and we don't allow them to express externally. So one is because of discipline, second is because of culture, third is out of ritual. By ritual means I have no interest in doing this, but I'll do it because you are telling me to do it. So for example, now if parents force their children to practice bhakti, they come to teenage and as long as they're home, they may practice bhakti. But as soon as they leave home, they'll stop it completely. So they're doing it, but it's completely a ritual. Now, is that good? Well, if somehow they can be elevated to a level where they understand why it is good for them, and then they do it as a discipline, then that is better. So the difference between culture and ritual is, in culture, I know this is good, and that's why I'm doing it. In ritual, it's just that because people are telling me I do it, I'm not really convinced this is good. And the fourth is hypocrisy, where I conceal what is inside so that people will respect me, people will trust me, and then at the right moment, I will pounce on them. So that means there is a distance between internal and external, but in the case of hypocrisy, there is not even a desire to remove to bridge the distance. There is not even a desire to remove the impurity. The only desire is conceal the impurity so that one can gratify it afterward. In the first and the second, if there is anything improper in the heart, there is a desire to remove it. In the third, there is not a desire to remove it, but there is not a desire to grow it also. Okay, it's there and I don't care about it. But in the fourth, the person is deliberately putting an act contrary to what they feel, and they don't want to change their feelings. They want to gratify those. So somebody like in Hindi or Bengali say, what is that? Ati bhakti chorera lakshan. That is, somebody is constantly trying to please someone, like a lot of flattery and things like that. Maybe they want something from us, and that's why they are doing all this. Now we can't judge externally. So, but there is all these four possibilities are there. So just because there is an internal external distance, that doesn't necessarily make somebody a bad person. That's just natural in our condition. But what is our attitude toward the distance? Are we trying to bridge that distance? Are we trying to keep it that way so that we can exploit it? That will determine how that inner outer distance or appearance substance distance affects us. Does it answer your question?
Yes, crystal clear explanation, Prabhuji. But Krishna will ultimately understand like what is the inner consciousness, right?
Of course, Krishna knows.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you for the thoughtful questions.
Thank you, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I had a question, but I will refrain from asking right now. That would delay you and everyone else. Though it was very compelling, but I'll leave it for next time when we meet you in the fourth session. Otherwise, also I could possibly ask you. So on that note, Jugal Prabhu, you have anything to say before we call off the session tonight with Chaitanya Charan Prabhu?
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class as usual. And only one request, since you said that there are separate groups in the spiritual world, keep me in your group.
I'll be happy to be in your group, Prabhu. Thank you for this opportunity to serve. And thank you also for the thoughtful questions. So wish all of you a very happy Janmashtami. I think this is going to be a unique Janmashtami because we're not able to physically meet so much, but still Krishna is in our hearts, and maybe it's an opportunity for us to experience Krishna internally more. And of course, experience him digitally now. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, and we wish you the same, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And we look forward to having your association next Saturday at the same time, 7 p.m. Oman time, 8:30 p.m. IST. And till then, stay safe and healthy. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.